Coming up on Arirang News. The Kremlin says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is to visit Russia at Putin's invitation for upcoming summits between the two. Kim is reportedly on his way to Vladivostok. South Korean President Yoon returns home after a week full of meetings with ASEAN and G20 leaders. His summit diplomacy highlights range from strengthened cooperation between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan, and with the ASEAN bloc, to Seoul's greater role as a global pivotal state. Around 2,500 people have been reported dead 3 days after a magnitude 6.8 quake hit Morocco, with the death toll expected to rise further. South Korea says it stands ready to provide support. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as we speak, reportedly moving toward the border with Russia. This, as Kremlin said, Putin invited Kim for upcoming summits between the two on the sidelines of an economic forum in Vladivostok this week. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Lee Dae-hyun leads us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reportedly on his way to Vladivostok to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The North's state-run Korea Central News Agency says that Putin had invited Kim to the top summit, and the Kremlin has officially confirmed that Kim will be visiting Russia. A key South Korean government official said on Monday that a train that Kim is expected to be on had departed for Russia on Sunday afternoon. Kim is expected to arrive in Vladivostok on Tuesday and then meet his Russian counterpart on either 12th or 13th. A spokesperson for the Kremlin had earlier said that talks between the two leaders during the Eastern Economic Forum or on the sidelines have not been planned. Citing multiple sources, Russian news agency Interfax had also said that the North Korean leader is likely to visit the Russian Far East in the coming days. However, it added that the sources did not specify details on Kim's visit. South Korea's defense ministry earlier on Monday said that there is high possibility that Kim will have talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Unification Ministry has expressed concern of potential military ties between Pyongyang and Moscow.
We're concerned about the military cooperation between the two. We want to make sure that the bilateral ties should not harm international norms and peace on the Korean Peninsula.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris also warned that the meeting between the two leaders would be a huge mistake for the North. She said this during an interview on CBS where she said this is Russia's, quote, act of desperation. Harris said that it's predictable that the North's arms supply would be used for Russia's war in Ukraine, which will further isolate Pyongyang and Moscow. South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin on Sunday sat down with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the G20 summit in New Delhi, where he highlighted that the relations between North Korea and Russia should aim for peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and in northeastern Asia. The minister also urged Russia's constructive cooperation with the UN Security Council on the North Korean issue. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Russia has warned South Korea that sending weapons or military hardware to Ukraine, either directly or indirectly, will crash out the two countries' relationship. The words of Georgy Zinoviev, the director of the Russian Foreign Ministry's First Asian Department, speaking to TASS news agency on Monday at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok. Zinoviev said, though Moscow believes Seoul is not providing lethal weapons to Kyiv, only economic and humanitarian aid, it is, quote, closely watching Korea's attitude to the war in Ukraine. President Yoon returns home today, wrapping up the diplomatic super week of ASEAN and G20 summits. His summit diplomacy highlights range from strengthened cooperation between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan, and with the ASEAN bloc, to Seoul's greater role as a global pivotal state. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has key takeaways.
While taking part in the ASEAN and G20 summits, President Yoon reiterated the key aspects of the strengthened cooperation between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan. Based on that, he focused on expanding cooperation with ASEAN countries. Wrapping up the week-long schedule, the presidential office explained that what was achieved during the overseas trip reflects what the three countries declared at the Camp David summit just a few weeks ago.
The principles and spirit of Camp David have provided a basis for agreements during summits on ASEAN and G20. Specifically speaking, the trilateral cooperation of Camp David aims to contribute to the Indo-Pacific region, especially in areas such as development, maritime security, and the growth of advanced digital technology.
As for relations with China, the president appears to have taken a two-track approach. While addressing North Korean issues during his summit with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Jakarta, he pressured China to play a responsive role as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. But at the same time, he said he hopes these matters will not get in the way of their bilateral relations, and called for Beijing's support in hosting a trilateral summit with Japan in the near future. Meanwhile, the top office explained that during this past week, President Yoon met with the leaders of more than 20 countries, using the opportunity to drum up support for Busan's bid to host the World Expo in 2030. He made sure to let those leaders know that the Busan Expo will focus on solutions to crises the world faces today. President Yoon also laid out ways for his country to fulfill its responsible diplomacy, which included more funding for Ukraine. Speaking at the G20 summit, he pledged $2.3 billion to support recovery efforts in Ukraine. He said South Korea will provide a $300 million package in 2024 and a $2 billion mid to long-term support plan consisting of long-term low-interest loans starting from 2025.
This demonstrates Seoul's responsible role in leading the way to support the restoration of peace as a global pivotal state that contributes to freedom, peace and prosperity in the world, while also laying the foundation for full-scale participation in Ukraine's reconstruction in the future.
Lastly, the president also focused on deepening economic and security ties with Indonesia and India, which have emerged as prominent markets. While meeting his Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo in Jakarta, the two leaders vowed to successfully complete the joint project, launched in 2015, to build an advanced supersonic fighter jet together by 2026. They also decided to sign an agreement on halal food products to serve as a basis for related exports from South Korea. During the summit with the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, the two sides agreed to expand cooperation in fields including energy and space. This comes after South Korea successfully launched its first homegrown space rocket Duri in May, and India made history by becoming the first country to land on the lunar South Pole region. 배은지, Arirang News.
In New Delhi, U.S. President Joe Biden met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang on the sidelines of the G20 summit in an impromptu encounter before flying into Vietnam, calling for stability in Washington-Beijing relations. Our RIIZE has more.
On the sidelines of the G20 summit in New Delhi, India, U.S. President Joe Biden held talks with Chinese Premier Li Qiang. Sunday's meeting between the two marked the U.S. leaders' highest-level talks with the Chinese leadership in months. Following the talks, and after arriving in Hanoi for a state visit to Vietnam, Biden stressed that the U.S. does not want to contain China, but instead called for stability in the Washington-Beijing relations.
And so really what this trip was about, it was less about containing China. I don't want to contain China. I just want to make sure we have a relationship with China that is on the up and up, squared away.
Biden also stressed that China is changing some of the rules of the game without elaborating further to the reporters on what rules he was referring to. He also noted that the U.S. is not trying to decouple from China, but instead not selling Chinese material that would enhance their capacity to make more nuclear weapons. Biden followed up his G20 summit appearance with a state visit to Vietnam as the U.S. works to cement closer ties with another one of China's neighboring countries. During his trip to Hanoi, he announced that the U.S. and Vietnam would elevate their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. There, the U.S. leader also secured deals with Vietnam on semiconductors and minerals, with the Southeast Asian nation quickly becoming a major player in Washington's bid to secure global supply chains outside of China. The latest elevation in partnership means that the U.S. is now on Vietnam's highest diplomatic status list, alongside China and Russia. 이승재, Arirang News.
It's been a little over 3 weeks since Japan started releasing wastewater from the defunct Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean. And today, it finished the first batch of the release, a total of nearly 8,000 tons. As Tokyo gears up for a second release within the coming weeks, South Korea is planning to dispatch its nuclear experts to the site again next week. Our Lee Si-hoo reports.
The first release of Fukushima wastewater that began on August 24th ended a little after noon on Monday, according to reports by Japanese public broadcaster NHK. South Korea's Office for Government Policy Coordination shared relevant details about this also on Monday during a regular briefing.
When the cleaning of the leftover wastewater inside the transfer facility is completed today, the release of the first discharge will have been completed.
Park added that a total of over 7,700 cubic meters of wastewater was released. There were no manual shutdowns or the operation of emergency valves to prevent the accidental release of undiluted wastewater. The wastewater included tritium, a form of radioactive hydrogen the processing system cannot filter out.
Samples collected from 14 points in waters within 10 kilometers of the nuclear power plant showed that the tritium concentration was much lower than the standard for the suspension of the release.
Back in August, South Korea and the International Atomic Energy Agency agreed to share related information and updates on the discharge. As part of this information sharing framework, Seoul dispatched 3 experts on August 27th from the Korea Institute of Nuclear Safety to Fukushima. For around 2 weeks, they visited the release site and held multiple talks with the IAEA, confirming the agency's own analysis of radionuclide concentrations separate from those of the Tokyo Electric Power Company. The experts, an official from the IAEA and the local office in Fukushima, will conduct a comprehensive evaluation of the first release via video conference this week. South Korea once again is planning to dispatch experts to the site sometime next week. The Government Policy Coordination Office said during its briefing that the date of the second discharge has not been determined thus far. However, Japan's public broadcaster NHK reported later that day that it will begin after about 3 weeks of equipment checks. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Over in Morocco, Friday's earthquake has left around 2,500 people dead. The number could rise further. To help recover from the disaster, the international community is lending a helping hand, including South Korea. Our Song Yu-jin has the latest.
Nearly 2,500 people have lost their lives and over 2,400 have been injured following Friday's powerful earthquake that struck Morocco. The 6.8 magnitude quake is the strongest to hit the country in 120 years and the deadliest in 6 decades. With buildings and homes turned into rubble, survivors are sleeping in the streets.
We need to help because every family here don't have the house. Every house here is broken.
Old people, anytime we sleep here. It is 3 days. It's tomorrow, it's goes 4 days. Not 8, not old people, no. No sleeping good, nothing.
But the death toll is likely to rise as search and rescue operations are ongoing in the worst affected towns in the Atlas Mountains. The United States Geological Survey expects there to be a 35% chance that the toll will hit 10,000 people and a 21% chance the figure will range between 10,000 to 100,000. The quake has also caused damage to cultural heritage sites. Local media outlets reported that parts of the Tinmul Mosque built in the 12th century had collapsed, as well as damaged buildings in the Medina of Marrakesh, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In response, the Moroccan government announced on Sunday that it's creating a special fund for emergency rehabilitation programs and rebuilding destroyed homes. It's already mobilizing armed forces to provide affected areas with drinking water, food, and blankets. The international community is lending a helping hand too. South Korea's foreign ministry told reporters on Monday that it's ready to provide support upon Morocco's request and that it's closely monitoring the situation. So far, there have been no casualties reported among the some 360 Korean residents in Morocco. While offers for assistance are pouring in from around the world, including the United States, Turkey, and France, the Moroccan government hasn't made an international appeal for help, saying that it would accept aid from 4 countries: Spain, Qatar, the United Kingdom, and the United Arab Emirates. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korea is continuing to see a trade deficit in the early part of September, with exports falling for 11 consecutive months as trade with China progressively weakens. According to Korea Customs Service on Monday, the total value of exports for the first 10 days of September stood at $14.9 billion, a year-on-year decrease of 7.9%. Sluggish semiconductor shipments largely contributed to this, as these dropped more than 28% compared to last year. Exports of petroleum products, automobile components, and computer peripherals also saw a decline. Seoul Metropolitan Government announced on Monday that a public transportation pass, a so-called climate card, will be available from January next year. For a monthly payment of 65,000 Korean won, which is around $49, the card will offer unlimited travel within the metropolitan area. A pilot project will take place from January through May 2024, with actual implementation scheduled for the second half of next year. The pass can be used to pay for modes of transport within the Seoul region that operate with a basic charge, including subways, buses, and public bikes. It is expected to alleviate residents' economic burden amid rising public transportation costs and contribute to dealing with climate change by encouraging more people to use public transport. The night skies above Seoul's Hangang River are to shine every Friday until late October, as the city offers a series of mesmerizing drone shows. Our Choi Soo-young went to check out the first one.
On Friday night, Seoul invited citizens to an astonishing drone show over the Hangang River. 1,000 drones depicted Seoul's major landmarks, including Gwanghwamun and the Hangang River night view, before ending the show with Seoul's new slogan, Seoul, My Soul. Visitors said they were captivated by the sophisticated beauty of the drones, which offered a charm distinct from traditional fireworks.
I was so shocked. When I was watching it, I thought it was better than fireworks. It was honestly it felt so surreal. It was so beautiful.
I think it showed a lot of really great scenes around Seoul, and I've seen a lot of the real places, and it made me remember those places and the times I visited them. So it was really great.
The 2023 Seoul Drone Night Show provided citizens with new entertainment during the Seoul Festa held in May, with a total of 4 performances. This fall, it will be held regularly at Duksam Hangang River Park Riverside Stage every Friday until October 27th, except for the Chuseok holiday and September 29th. The drone performances have different themes each week, such as Seoul Night Tour, Jazz Night, and Dream World. The show, which starts at 7 p.m., lasts for about 10 minutes.
Citizens can enjoy not only a drone show, but also cultural and artistic performances, making it even better for relaxing in urban spaces on an autumn night to the fullest.
Battery limitations mean the show only lasts 10 minutes, but there's plenty of other entertainment, from performances to busking shows. Visitors can also enjoy camping along the Hangang River while watching the show, or just relaxing with their families.
I came here with my child, and it's so nice to feel refreshed. Thanks to the Seoul government for providing this wonderful experience free of charge.
Visitors can find more information through Seoul City's official Instagram or by calling 120 to contact the Tasan call center. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
New K-pop boy group RIIZE's debut single has become a million seller just 1 week after it went on sale. According to the group's agency SM Entertainment, the single Get a Guitar saw sales of over 1 million following its release on September 4th. The single has also achieved exceptional results on various domestic and global music charts. Fueling this unprecedented success is the group's personal take on the emotional pop genre, with the members expressing and sharing their emotions and progress through this song and others. It's been over 3 decades since the barcode was first introduced to Korea. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young sat down with the CEO of a global organization responsible for global standards for barcodes to talk about the next generation barcode, the QR code for digital transformation.
The well-known beep sound when a product is scanned is heard about 6 billion times per day across the world. Marking the 35th anniversary of the barcode in South Korea, the country has seen a 1,000-fold increase in the number of Korean companies adopting barcodes compared to 1988. However, there is potential for the South Korean retail industry to go even further, especially regarding circular economy and sustainable growth. That's according to the CEO of GS1, a global non-governmental organization based in Belgium, credited with designing and implementing global standards for barcodes.
So if you look at the retail industry in Korea, it's one of the most advanced in the world already. The European Union wants to implement a real circular economy, and they are asking all export countries to provide data about the products that will be exported to Europe. What we do is to define a global language of business, meaning standardized data that can be used by all partners when they exchange information.
He also stressed the importance of digital transformation among retail and logistics industries by using the next generation barcode powered by GS1.
So the original barcode 35 years ago initiated a strong revolution in commerce and in supply chain. Today, with the next generation barcode, it's the beginning of a new revolution. A new revolution which will lead to better consumer information, and this will create trust with consumers.
He added that another aspect of digitalization is to improve the operation of companies.
Retailers have the possibility with this technology to improve inventory management and also to propose what we call dynamic pricing to consumers. That is, when the product arrives closer to the expiry date, you can make a discount.
A label-free water bottle with an imprinted GS1 QR code on the lid is one of the examples that demonstrates digital transformation and sustainable growth in South Korea. Citing disruptions caused by the pandemic and shortage of certain raw materials, the GS1 CEO said managing the supply chain has become more crucial.
You need to have a good transparency and visibility in the supply chains that you manage. A proof is that during the pandemic, in the countries where a common standard was adopted, they were able to consolidate how much inventory they have for this medicine or this medicine, and then be able to better allocate where they needed the medicines.
He added that functioning as a global language, QR codes will help exporters, including Korean firms, to comply more easily with requirements from around the world. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Temperatures will start to cool down from this point on. Highs in Seoul will get up to 29 degrees Celsius, and readings will keep dropping for the remainder of the week. Readings will get closer to what we see in fall months by Friday at 26 degrees. Until tomorrow, though, wide temperature gaps are expected. Mornings will be quite breezy, but highs will jump significantly to near 30 degrees Celsius. Under such fluctuating temperatures, our immune systems tend to become weaker, so please be extra careful not to catch a cold. And for the south of the country, scattered outbreaks of rainfall are in the forecast. For parts of Chungcheongbuk-do, Jeollado, and Gyeongsang-do provinces, 5 to 30 millimeters of rainfall are expected. Most regions will be under overcast skies. Seoul will be starting off at 22 degrees. Highs in Seoul, Daejeon, and Gwangju will be reaching 29. Daegu and Gyeongju will be topping out at 30 degrees. On Friday, the entire nation will see rainfall. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Now, that is all for this Monday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news. Hope everyone has a good start of the week.